Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with a story in which our OP encountered difficulties at his job and then quit. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. I can only do my work? Okay. I used to work for a famous place that dispenses medications. I'm sure many of you have seen one, for more serious chronic conditions. Medications were delivered to patients instead of picked up. That's really the only thing you need to know. I worked in the insurance authorization portion for non-Americans. That basically means I was responsible for trying to get the insurance coverages to actually pay for the medications many of these people needed to live their lives. Yes, it's stupid and inefficient. And if anyone is familiar with insurance work, you know it's 1, basically thankless, 2, usually involves having to be on the phone a lot, and 3, is always behind. Number 3 is the important part. Supervisors at the job didn't like me much because I questioned a lot of stuff and tried to make things more efficient. However, because of their own set of rules and metrics, they couldn't really ding me on a lot of stuff because I always performed well in performance reviews. My supervisors and I weren't exactly pals, a story for another time, but many of my coworkers absolutely loved me, and whenever I could help out with their workloads, I would. For most of my time there, I did my own work, helped out 2 other coworkers with their blessing, helped out other coworkers when they complained about being overwhelmed, and managed to keep fully abreast on all the work. One day, though, Supervisor A came to me and said, "Hey, OP, you need to focus on your own work." "What do you mean, Supervisor A? I'm completely caught up and waiting on a lot of responses." "You need to stop helping your coworkers out, OP. They've got their work assigned, you've got yours. Just focus on what you've got." "Okay, Supervisor A, you want me to focus on my own stuff? You got it." I warned the coworkers I was helping that Supervisor A was telling me to not help them anymore, transferred all the work I'd helped with back to the original owners, and spent time working on writing things down with pen and paper. Not 2 days later, Supervisor A and her counterpart, Supervisor B, came in and were questioning my coworkers about why their workloads were suddenly so much larger. Several of them apparently gave the same answer. OP was helping keep our queues lowered. A day after that, we went into mandatory overtime because things had gotten too busy for regular hours. Both supervisors walked by my desk several times. Open floor desk plans are the worst. But since I was demurely either writing something down by hand or had my own work queue conspicuously open to where they could indeed see I was fully caught up with everything typically assigned to me, they were not able to say a single word. I'm so glad I'm out of that job now. Bonus is that they paid me for several hours of work where I was actually writing down story ideas, grocery lists, to-do lists, and getting my resume in order. I understand how frustrating and seemingly nonsensical this must have been as an employee. However, your supervisors need to know how an average worker can handle the assigned workload. It tells them when to adjust work assignments, when there's a need to help guide and train or fire underperforming employees, when there's a need to hire additional staff, or when to offer you a raise and or promotion. And our second story. You want to flaunt stupid rules at a then soon-to-be lawyer? 2 can play this game. I was in my final year of law school. As part of our curriculum, we had to accrue a certain number of hours of out-of-class course-related activities. It was a pretty high number of hours, but you sort of planned to do them over the course of the year, so it wasn't so bad. Anyway, there was a list of the activity types you could use to fulfill this requirement: attending conferences, publishing a paper, writing a report on a lecture, etc. But there were caps on the number of hours you could accrue in each category, so you couldn't just do one thing. The highest cap was for law-related internships, almost 50% of the total requirement, so I planned around that and got into an internship in my final year, which would get me above the required number of hours. You had to log your hours in an online system, which required you to fill the beginning and end dates for the activity and the number of hours you wished to log. As internships here usually don't have a fixed end date, only a maximum of 2 years, but the company or I could terminate it early. I thought I'd just file the paperwork as soon as I finished the internship and it'd be golden. However, as soon as I did that, the system rejected my request, stating that I should have filed everything before the end of my internship. I figured this was pretty dumb since anyone logging internship hours wouldn't know the end date or total hours before the end of their internship, so I went to the university's law department, which I thought would immediately correct this obvious mistake, right? Wrong. I basically got told tough luck by the professor in charge and that I should have applied with a fictitious end date and amount of hours before I finished the internship if I wasn't sure of when I was going to leave it. At this point, I'm super anxious, as this internship represents about 50% of the hours I needed to graduate. I wasn't going to be able to make up for that before my graduation day, and I'd already passed the bar exam. In my country, you can take it in your final year of law school, and then it dawned on me. It was so simple, I thought it surely wouldn't work. If they wanted me to fill the online form with made-up data, then by all means, that's what I would do. I logged back into the system and filled out the same information for my internship, but I put the end date in the future. When the system approved the request, I submitted my paperwork with a note, "As per instructions of Professor Z, I hereby request an amendment to the end date of my internship period according to the attached documents." Got full credit for the hours I needed, graduated on time. I've been working as a lawyer for the past 10 years. I'm glad for your sake that you mentioned you were amending the end date on the instructions of your professor. I can imagine someone accusing you of academic dishonesty. And our next story. You really shouldn't go that way. I'm a photographer at a major theme park and am sometimes assigned to work with characters. One night, many years ago, I was with one of our princesses and I'm looking forward to going home and plopping into bed because I had a 12-hour shift and was exhausted. And that's when I heard it, a child screaming. Now, there are many types of screams you hear at my job and you get pretty good at telling them apart. There's, "Mommy, I'm hungry, get me food." There's, "Mommy, I'm tired and want to stay in the stroller." There's, "Mommy, I'm scared of the character you're forcing me to meet." And then my personal favorite, because it's honestly why I do my job, "Mommy, I'm so excited to meet my favorite character and thank you for bringing me to meet them." And then there's, "Mommy, I'm gonna be a little brat and ruin everyone's day just because I can." Guess which one this was? My head was already throbbing from a nasty headache, and this child screaming was making it worse. However, I didn't want to leave the area because that would have made the attendant's job that much harder. They already work hard enough as it is. They don't need to do my job on top of theirs. Now, I should give parents credit here. Most times when their child decides to act up, they will discipline their child and get them to stop. I've actually thanked parents for doing their job. However, these child's parents don't. If anything, they're laughing and thinking it's funny. By the time they finally get to the princess, my head now feels like Thor striking me over and over. Technically, I can ask the father, who at this point is trying to catch the child from running away, to take his child out for everyone's safety or even walk away, but we had one family waiting until I could leave, but decide to soldier on. The father puts his child down once again. Honestly, I have no clue why he does this, especially considering the fact that the child has already tried to run away, and once again he starts to bolt. The attendant steps in the direction the kid's going to try and stop him, but I knew he was going to turn and dodge her. This was mainly to keep the child from barreling into the wall behind us, but it was also to teach him a lesson. I'm a big woman, at least 250 pounds, close to 6 feet tall and built like a brick outhouse. Running into me is not going to be a lot of fun, especially if I brace myself, bending my knees slightly, putting one foot behind me and holding my arms a little to the side. My nephews have learned this lesson the hard way more than once. It hurts, but doesn't cause any damage. So I stepped next to the attendant and braced myself. Sure enough, kid turned, but couldn't stop in time and slammed into me. He starts to hold his head and screamed as if I dumped him in a pot of boiling oil, even though it doesn't hurt any more than bumping into something. I checked on him and made sure he was okay, mainly for the parents' sake, but inside I was smirking. After that, the kid was nice and quiet, and we were able to enjoy our evening. And our last story. Near my house, there's an abandoned house. The owner passed away, maybe 2012. I met him. He was a good man, never had children, but he had nephews. After his death, a woman went to live in his house. Nobody said anything because neighbors used to think she was his niece. Nope, she isn't. Their true nephew went to that house last week and found that Karen's been living in the house that his uncle left him. Well, I live like 3 or 4 houses left of her, so I could hear her scream that she bought that house years ago, and she had all the papers for the house, and she's the owner. The truth? Another Karen sold her that house. She works in town hall and got the papers of the house. When Karen number 1, we're going to call her Joan now, and Sam, true owner of the house, went to talk with Karen, she at first denied everything. Then the police went with them. Karen screamed that she had the right to do that because she did a lot of things for this town and nobody was going to claim that house after all, so she did it and sold it. Sam reported her for property theft and Joan for scam. Karen got fired at work, counselor, and now she's being investigated. With the pandemic, all the courts are closed, but Sam's a lawyer and he asked a favor of his friends and Karen was summoned to court in March. Now, the house, Sam and Joan agreed that he's going to sell the house to her, but they're going to ask in the trial that Karen pay to Sam the money that Joan gave her for the house and the new papers of property and compensation to both. Sam's going to take that money and Joan will be the legal owner of the house. Sam wasn't interested in the house. He just came to see what his uncle left him, see what he could do with it. That's basically the story. The source, Joan told everything to my sister, who has a store in her house. She told us. And well, Joan told this story to everyone she knows. She isn't a bad woman, but she could be a Karen when she wants. Edit. Karen's in jail now waiting for a trial. She sold at least 4 houses in our town and the capital city. That's all I know for now. I can't blame Joan for kicking off, to be honest. Finding out your home isn't your home? Terrifying. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.